Welcome to the Teaching Skills series, where we focus on effective explanation. Our primary objective is to explore 4 tools that make the difficult stick. We will dissect how worked examples, analogies, dual coding, and cognitive load safe slides fundamentally improve comprehension. This is a practical 15 minutes, 1 job aid session, culminating in 1 task. You will rebuild 3 slides from your own course, applying these principles. When hard concepts fail to land, it's rarely the content itself, it's the delivery format. There are 4 common pitfalls. First, the expert blind spot. As experts, we forget what it felt like to not know, skipping obvious steps that students need to see. Second, words doing what diagrams should. A verbal explanation of a spatial or procedural concept forces students to build a mental image from scratch, while a labeled diagram does it in seconds. Third, abstract before concrete. Stating the rule, then illustrating, is counterintuitive. Concrete first, abstract second is how working memory encodes knowledge. And fourth, overloaded slides. 17 bullet points and a 300-word paragraph exceed the hard limit of working memory, and nothing encodes. Fortunately, 4 tools can fix these 4 problems. Now, let's explore the 2-part structure, which is critical to the effectiveness of this method. It consists of 2 parts. Part 1 is a complete example, where you, the expert, walk through every step with running commentary. This is precisely where you show the thinking. Part 2 is a completion problem for the student. You provide the same problem with the first 2 steps completed, and the student completes from there. This introduces fade, which is essential, as it converts watching into learning. In a health professions example, this might involve working through a drug dose calculation aloud. You would narrate why you chose specific formulas, explain the unit's significance, and how you check the answer. Then, to implement the fade, give students the same problem with the first step completed. This slide contrasts the before and after approaches to renal clearance calculation. Previously, we often presented the renal clearance formula directly. CL equals U times V divided by P, where U is urinary drug concentration, V is urine flow rate, and P is plasma concentration. We noted that a normal CL is around 120 milliliters per minute, which is typically reduced in chronic kidney disease. The after approach transforms this into a structured, live worked example. Step 1 is to write the formula. Step 2 involves the critical units check, ensuring that milligrams per liter multiplied by milliliters per minute, then divided by milligrams per liter, yields milliliters per minute. Step 3 is the calculation using the patient data, resulting in 16 milliliters per minute. Step 4 is the interpretation, comparing the calculated 16 to the normal 120, which clearly indicates significant reduction and informs dosing adjustments. What changed is that the formula became a decision sequence. While experts do the units check automatically, students must learn it explicitly. The completion problem provides practice. Using the provided data for patient 2, complete steps 3 and 4. A core teaching strategy is to give students something to hang the concept on, which is tool number 2, analogy. Let's examine the mechanism. A new concept has no home in long-term memory. An analogy provides a pre-existing structure, a scaffold, that the new concept can attach to. Without it, the concept floats and fades. The structure of a good analogy involves specific steps. First, name the familiar domain. Then state the shared structure explicitly. Just as X does Y, the concept does Z. Then, critically, name where the analogy breaks down. Unstated limits mislead more than no analogy at all. Conversely, we must consider when analogies fail. This happens when the familiar domain isn't actually familiar to your audience, when the mapping is stretched too far, or when you forget to name the limit. The analogy sticks, so make sure what sticks is accurate. The template summarizes our approach. New concept works like familiar thing. In both cases, shared structure. The difference is where analogy breaks down. As we examine these 4 health professions analogies, it's crucial to understand their limits, as the slide title suggests. First, consider glomerular filtration. The analogy of a coffee filter is helpful. Liquid and small molecules pass, while large particles remain. However, the limit must be noted. Unlike a simple filter, the glomerulus filters by charge, not just size, which is why albumin, though small, is typically blocked. Next, the action potential refractory period. Think of it as a camera flash needing time to recharge before firing again. The limit is crucial here. The absolute refractory period doesn't have a simple voltage threshold, and a sufficiently strong stimulus can still trigger a smaller spike during the relative period. Moving on to drug receptor saturation. The car park analogy is intuitive. Once every space is full, more cars make no difference. The limit is critical, though. Unlike a car park, receptors can be upregulated or downregulated, and reserve receptors can mean a clinical effect may plateau before full occupancy. Finally, herd immunity threshold. The fire break in a forest analogy shows how non-combustible trees interrupt the chain of spread. The critical limit is the threshold constantly shifting with transmissibility, R0. A more contagious variant simply raises the proportion needed. Today, we're discussing dual coding, a critical tool for effective communication, emphasizing that words and images must work together. Fundamentally, what dual coding is simultaneously presenting the same information through both verbal and visual channels. Pavio's theory explains this. The brain processes these channels separately but links them. When both channels carry the same concept, encoding is faster, retrieval is more reliable, and the concept becomes more resistant to forgetting. It's crucial to distinguish between true dual coding and mere decoration. An image must carry conceptual content, not just a stock photograph or logo. A simple test. Cover the image. Does the slide lose information? If yes, it is dual coding. If no, it is decoration. To apply this effectively, match content type to visual type. For a definition or rule, use a diagram or illustration. A sequence of steps is best displayed with a flowchart or numbered diagram. When making a comparison, employ a 2x2 matrix or side-by-side table. And to represent change over time, select a graph or timeline. Today, we're looking at dual coding in practice, specifically with the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, or RAAS pathway. The before section illustrates a common presentation, a list of 7 bullet points detailing the pathway. While accurate, this format is text-heavy and requires substantial cognitive effort to mentally connect the steps and trace the flow. The after diagram transforms this information into a dual-coded system. The visual shows the sequence clearly, starting with the trigger, low BP or low sodium. You can follow the pathway through renin release, the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2 by ACE, leading to vasoconstriction and aldosterone increase, culminating in NaH/H2O reabsorption and a net increase in BP and volume. As the slide notes, 7 bullets became a diagram. This visual shows direction, sequence, and the endpoints simultaneously. The dual coding provides a powerful reinforcement, making the complex process much easier to understand and retain. Our working memory has a hard limit, so design must be intentional. Cognitive load theory identifies 3 critical loads. Intrinsic load is the inherent complexity of the concept itself. You cannot reduce it. Our strategy is sequence. Teach prerequisite concepts first and break complex wholes into learnable parts. Extraneous load is caused by how the material is presented, such as busy slides, dense text, and redundant information. We must eliminate this. Every element that isn't carrying conceptual weight steals working memory. Germane load is the load that builds understanding, forming schemas and connecting concepts. We must maximize it. When you remove extraneous load, germane load fills the freed space. That's the mechanism of better learning. Remember Sweller's rule. If a student has to simultaneously read your slide, listen to you, and understand the concept, one of those three will fail. Design the slide so reading is not required while you are speaking. To ensure cognitive load is managed effectively, we adhere to 6 key rules for slide design. First, the principle of one concept per slide is critical. If you have 2 concepts, you need 2 slides. Slide count is not a measure of efficiency, but cognitive load is. Second, aim for a max 6 words on screen while speaking. A headline and a diagram allow students to listen and follow the visual, ensuring they don't compete with your voice and prose. Third, remove decorative images. Stock photographs, logos, clip art can be distracting. If covering extraneous load, delete it. Fourth, eliminate redundancy. Do not read aloud what is written on the slide. Either say it or write it. Both simultaneously doubles the load. Fifth, reveal progressively. On a complex diagram, build it one step at a time, each click revealing the next component. Students follow the build, not race to read the whole. And sixth, left to right or top to bottom, always. Do not make students search for the reading order. Directional consistency is free cognitive economy. This slide outlines a critical job aid for rebuilding your presentations, posing 4 essential questions to audit every slide. First, ask yourself, could a student learn this concept from the slide alone without your spoken explanation? If yes, your explanation is redundant. Remove the content from the slide and simply speak it. Second, evaluate your visuals. Does the visual carry conceptual content, or is it decoration? If you can cover the image and nothing is lost, delete it. Decoration is not neutral. It adds cognitive load. Third, ask if a student without any prior knowledge would understand it. If no, you need to find an analogy that builds the bridge, prioritizing concrete before abstract. Finally, check your word count. Are there more than 6 words on screen while you are speaking? If yes, delete until you have a headline and 1 visual, speaking the rest. A yes to any of these questions means your slide needs rebuilding, and every rebuilt slide should use at least 2 of these 4 tools.
All right, it's your turn. We're going to take 12 minutes to apply these concepts. First, step 1, in purple, open a slide deck you are teaching in the next 2 weeks. Pick one that you know contains a hard concept students consistently struggle with. Step 2, in orange, run the 4-question audit on every slide in that deck. Flag any slide that gets a yes. These are your rebuild targets. Now, step 3, in blue, pick the 3 worst slides. Rebuild each using at least 2 tools, like the worked examples we discussed, analogy, dual coding, or cognitive load rules. Combine where possible. Finally, step 4, in green, upload the before and after screenshots to the module page. As we wrap up, let's quickly address 4 critical mistakes we often see. First, using a decorative image and calling it dual coding. Dual coding requires the visual to carry conceptual information that the words do not fully convey alone. A photograph of a doctor is not dual coding for a pharmacology concept. Second, writing an analogy without naming the limit. The analogy will stick regardless. The only question is whether what sticks is accurate. Name the limit every time, even when it feels pedantic. Third, building a worked example that shows the answer, not the decisions. The narrated reasoning is the worked example. The numbers on the slide are just a record of it. Without the narration, a worked example is a model answer, useful for checking, not for learning. Finally, rebuilding 1 slide and leaving 40 unchanged. Use the audit. Flag every yes. Prioritize the 3 slides closest to your next hard concept. 3 rebuilt slides per course is sustainable and compounds. The core philosophy we must embrace, summarized in 1 sentence, is that the slide is not the lesson. The slide is the scaffold the lesson hangs on. Slides are merely the framework. The true lesson unfolds through dynamic delivery and interaction. To build this effective scaffold, our key takeaways focus on several critical strategies. We start with the worked example, providing essential concrete applications.
This is enhanced by using analogy, carefully balanced with defining its limit to avoid misconceptions. Dual coding is vital for managing cognitive load by integrating information clearly and establishing load-safe rules ensures an optimal learning environment. Crucially, the next step involves mastering questioning that generates participation. This means deliberately implementing techniques like adequate wait time, structuring collaborative learning through think, pair, share, and utilizing the cold call done kindly approach to foster broad, inclusive, and active engagement.